were talking about in your speech about this collision and civil war. Do you think? Of course, there's some kind of war because there's violence coming from Islamic terrorists. Do you see real civil war in Western countries, or do you see in the future, what does the future hold when it comes?
I think Europe is headed, the way things are moving, unless they do something, is headed to confrontation, civil unrest, absolutely. Because the two ideologies cannot survive together. They're opposite.
Yeah.
So you cannot have two opposite constitutions.
Yeah.
One says freedom and the other one says Sharia. You can't. Eventually, sooner or later, it's going to collide. And it's going to be a bloody collision.
Yeah. I really do agree. But
unless Europe surrenders.
Yeah, I really do agree. But of course, we have to protect, and of course, our politicians need to wake up, in my opinion, as well. But I really see it as a battle of ideas. We need to make people see, and in the end, it's really up to Muslims to either reform or do something about the religion. What do you think needs to be done, and how do we engage Muslims in that process?
The problem is really a very difficult problem. It's not as simple as you might think. Because if you tell Muslims to reform, they have to discard almost 64% of what the Quran commands them to do. And to many Muslims, that's almost like telling them to abandon Islam. So a lot of people believe that Islam can be reformed.
Can't be reformed. Yeah. Can.
Some people believe it can be. I don't know how.
Yeah.
I don't know how. If you take out jihad completely, the concept of jihad, if you take out marriage of 4 women, if you take out the dress of women, if you take out a lot of the basic ideas, if you look at the end of the book, you'll see the differences. I have 54, but now there are like 65 differences. You are really telling Muslims to abandon Sharia.
Yeah.
To abandon Sharia is like telling a terrorist to abandon weapons.
Yeah.
Islam's power is in Sharia.
Yeah. You don't think it's going to happen? You don't think
it's going to be a bloody confrontation? Islam is not.
But it's already bloody. I mean, now the Sunni Shia wars. I think a lot of people forget that Muslim people are really the ones who are paying the biggest price of this. All of the Muslim history has been wars and conflict, and now the Sunni Shia war is so bloody.
When Muhammad died. After Muhammad died, all the Arabs of Arabia abandoned Islam and they went back to their original religions. And the Sahaba, the people who were with Muhammad, they had to go through 2 years of wars with all these tribes to bring them back to Islam. Which means what? Which means Islam has to use violence to stay in business. It has to.
And the fear is great. I mean, this is something I really can feel within the Muslim community, no matter what ethnicity, what country they're from. Shia, Sunni, the fear is so controlling, and
it's compliance through fear and through terror.
Yeah.
In the West, in the biblical values, you comply because you believe.
Yeah.
You comply because you are convinced through reason. Christianity does, the good thing about Christianity is it dialogues. There's a give and take.
Yes.
You can criticize. You can say, I don't believe.
Yeah.
And then they try to convince you to believe or not to believe.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
In Islam, you can't.
Yeah.
You can't dialogue. You can't say, I don't believe.
Yeah.
You can't critique. So, in an ideology that does not accept criticism and resorts to violence to have followers, then
what do you think was what some for instance, you in your family, you have the courage to do this, to come out and speak against all of these issues about Islam and how it is an ideology. I'm actually writing a book about Islam where the main point of the book is to tell people that it's mainstream Islam. It's not a fringe. It's not. It's mainstream, right?
I'll tell you what. When I lived in the Muslim world, when I was a Muslim, there was never nobody was talking about moderate Islam, radical Islam. All these are expressions that were used in the West.
Yeah.
But these are not expressions used in Muslim countries.
No.
When you live in Muslim countries, you say, I'm a Muslim. You don't say I'm a moderate Muslim or a radical Muslim.
Yeah.
So these are all expressions coined in the West out of respect to differentiate between the terrorists and the regular Muslims.
Yeah. You spoke about Keith Ellison and Dalia Mujahid, right? And I started reading about these people after, or about around the time the election was going on in the US, and what it really surprised me that we really didn't have, and also Hillary's had what's her name?
Huma
Abedin, and these people, and their backgrounds and what they're
Muslim Brotherhood.
Yeah, Muslim Brotherhood, and it really opened my eyes to the fact that also in Denmark, it is Muslim Brotherhood and people kind of close to Muslim, because there are a lot of sects. You know that better than me. So it doesn't need to be Muslim Brotherhood, but people. It's also sometimes the regime in Iran who is sometimes influencing. Now, for instance, they're kind of an ally to the United States and Europe in the fight against ISIS, right? Mm-hmm. So the West tends to think that our enemies are friends. Yeah.
Short-sighted.
Yeah,
that's
very
short-sighted.
And then they say, no, the problem is not Islam because our allies are other Islamists. Mm-hmm. So when do you think that is going to change? When do you think that the West, the leadership
will wake up?
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll ever wake up. I don't know. I'm not even sure if they're gonna fight if it comes to when the rubber hit the road, as they say in America. I don't even know if Europe will fight. They might surrender.
Really?
They might surrender to Islam.
And now in the US with Trump, do you think that is going to change anything?
Half of America has no idea about the radical Islam, and they defend Islam as just another religion. And they call people who criticize Islam Islamophobes.
Yes.
Like it's a phobia.
Yeah.
So if I'm afraid of Islam and I cannot visit a Muslim country, they think that I'm phobic.
Yeah.
And a phobia is fear, unsubstantiated fear. But I'm afraid of Islam and I can't go visit a Muslim country because I will be arrested and killed.
Yeah.
Because I left Islam. So I don't think this is a phobia. This is real, logical, substantiated fear.
Yeah.
So the West is playing games with each other. The problem with the West is that they are still fighting one another and not fighting Islam.
Yeah. And also, I think there's a capitalistic saying or belief in the fact that if we get the economy going and we just, have the economy, international economy going, the global economy going, then these conflicts will end. And
I think the conflict might end, no, not by economy, only if oil, the petrodollars are no longer there.
yeah,
Islam might go into a dormant mode.
yeah,
By dormant, I mean they don't reform, really. It's not a reformation, but they stop for a while the jihad.
yeah,
Like when it happened in the last century, when Islam became dormant and the Middle East was, it was weakened. Actually, the caliphate was ended, and Turkey ended the caliphate, and that's when Islam weakened.
yeah.
And that's when also France and Britain ruled the Middle East.
But that's again a short side. That's again.
But that only happened for 7 years.
Yeah.
Okay, 7 years of Islamic weakness. It was revived. Islam was revived by petrodollars, by discovery of oil.
Yeah.
So it can go dormant, but it gets revived.
Yeah. Because it's the fact that women's rights, and of course we didn't have democracy in any Muslim country, but the situation was better in all of the countries. Reform, and
no, it didn't
some people
reform.
say
It just went
it's because some
went
people say no, it was Islam was different back
No.
then. It wasn't. It was just not strong.
It was just waiting for power.
Yeah.
And when the power happened, it happened through petrodollars.
Yeah. And can you tell a little bit about your own history and I YouTubed you, so I know the basics, but I thought it was really interesting. You, in one of your speeches on YouTube, you talk about how you were a little girl and how jihad and how you grew up in the schools learning about jihad.
Well, I grew up like most kids in the Middle East. I was taught to hate Jews. I was taught that Muslims were superior and Christianity was bad, the Bible was bad. It was falsified by the Jews and Christians, and that jihad was the most important thing we could do. I don't know my.
Oh. Yeah.
And my father headed the Egyptian military intelligence in Gaza, and his job was to destroy Israel. And he died actually by Israel. He was killed by Israel.
Yeah.
And I lived under Islam till I was 30 years old.
What happened, or what happened then, or through your life that you think?
I lived cosmetically. We wore with Western clothes because I grew up as a child in the 50s and the 60s, and in the 70s I moved to America in the late 70s. But I lived under, we were not wearing Islamic clothes, but it was all cosmetic.
Yeah.
But in our minds, in our life, we were completely Islamic.
Yeah. What happened? Was it you becoming a Christian that made
it only
everything?
In America? Only in America I was able to become a Christian. I could never have gone to Egypt. It's illegal.
Yeah. No, I'm your own personal history. If you weren't a Christian today, you wouldn't be speaking about these things, or
probably in America, just by being in America, I was still going to speak.
Yeah.
But Christianity got me very deep into understanding why there is freedom in the West.
Yeah.
why there is freedom in Europe. But they're losing it. And they're losing it because they are losing their biblical values.
Yeah.
And the minute you lose your biblical values, there's nothing to measure, I guess. Sorry. So if you don't have the values of the Bible as your measurement of your value system, then Islam can sound just as equal as the Bible. And that's not true.
I'm personally an atheist and agnostic.
Most Muslims who left Islam become atheists and
yeah.
agnostics, but that's very sad.
Yeah.
And I think that is the remnants still in their fear of Islam, so they generalize that all religions are just like Islam.
See that all religions aren't the same, and I do see that biblical or Christian values are a big part of why we have freedom in the West. But I also see other movements like the Enlightenment and all of the fights for freedom that are political or secular. I see both sides being, the reason why we have our freedom and our democracies in the Western countries. But when I read about Christianity, when I read about Christianity,
you take it literally?
No. When I read it, I think it's especially New Testament is very much about turning the other cheek.
It's too. Yeah, a lot of people understand Christianity as like not fighting, but Christianity, self-defense is allowed under Christianity. It's not to turn the other cheek. It's a symbolic word.
It's two different cultures. From I look at it from outside, and I see Islamic jihad, and
it's just the opposite.
It's the opposite. And then I see Christianity being like totally pacifistic, and
it's not.
It's clashing in the West now.
That is misunderstanding the Bible.
But I see that in the culture of Western countries. When I see liberals, when I see even conservatives in the Western countries, a lot of them have this culture of...
Because they live together, Christians, when they live together for a long time, because there's no challenge between them. They all agree.
Yeah.
When you all agree about Christian values, then you live for years and years and years without a challenge.
Yeah.
So you kind of like consider peace as the norm.
Yeah.
But that can be very deceiving because there's always going to be because on earth, the world we live in is neither good or bad. It just is.
Yeah.
And we try to go to the good side.
Yeah.
But the bad side is always there. Because that's the nature of the world we live in. But I choose the good side. I feel comfortable with the good side, which is the Christian side.
But do you think if you hadn't converted to Christianity, do you think
I'll be doing what I'm doing?
Yeah.
I probably
I think why aren't more people doing it?
Ayaan Hirsi Ali is she's an agnostic.
Yeah.
So Ayaan Hirsi Ali is doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And she's not a Christian.
Yeah.
And Wafa Sultan.
Yeah.
Wafa Sultan. She's also an atheist.
Yeah.
Or she's not very religious.
Yeah.
So
what is the difference between the, and I mean there's also Muslims as Rahil, I don't remember her last name, but Zuzi Jasser and
but Zuzi Jasser,
Astronomani. Yeah. What do you think about
these are Muslims who give excuses for Islam. They've created an Islam in their minds that doesn't exist.
But they want to
reform it.
Yeah.
But how can you reform something that 64% is advocating killing and hating?
Yeah.
How can you reform that? But God bless them.
Yeah.
If they can do it.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Many people try to do it. throughout
I
history.
think I can't. I mean, I'm not a Muslim, so I don't know how to do that for the Muslims. But my hope would be that they find a way to do it if they want to still be Muslims. But we are not seeing a movement, and if we
They call them apostates.
yeah
I have an article with Zoji Jasser with me
yeah
in Arabic.
yeah
It's in Arabic.
yeah
And we were both called apostates.
yeah
in
yeah.
it.
I mean,
So-
Shia calls Sunni an apostate.
Apostate.
Everybody calls
is
everybody
apostate.
an apostate.
So God bless them if they can do it.
Yeah.
Then they will have a movement under their name. And I don't think it's going to happen, but they think it's going to happen.
But if that doesn't happen, then what is 1.5 billion people
No, it's
going to do?
Islam is going to be dormant and back and forth and dormant and back and forth. That's it. I
Oh,
don't, because the devil exists on this earth, and Islam advocates, in my opinion, very devilish ideas, and it exists. And
so you don't believe in any reform?
no,
No,
I don't think
yeah.
reform is. Islam was created in the first place as a rebellion against the Bible.
Yeah. You were talking about the 72 virgins and the idea of jihad, and if you die, you go to heaven and have 72 virgins,
Yeah.
and I think also you have 70 members of your family or something
Yeah,
with you
with
to
them.
heaven. Yeah.
Yeah. So the
Um,
only way for a Muslim to go to heaven is to go kill and get killed.
And you
That's
were
the only
yeah.
way for Allah to love you.
Yeah. And if it's not the only way, right?
It's the only way.
Really?
Guaranteed to go
No,
to
guarantee.
heaven.
Yeah, guaranteed. Yeah.
To guarantee to go to heaven,
Yeah,
you have to go to
Yeah.
jihad.
Yeah.
That's the only guarantee
Yeah, and that it doesn't matter how many bad things you've done.
you've done.
Yeah, and it's also actually when you look at the Syrian warriors who go from the west to Syria or even do terrorist attacks in Western countries, a lot of them have very criminal backgrounds and so on. They feel
And theft they do because Islam violated all the 10 commandments.
but they feel like if I kill a Jew, then I'll be guaranteed.
Or you can take his property. You can
Yeah.
steal from a Jew
Yeah.
because they are not considered human.
I find myself I've been writing about Islam for many years and talking about it, but I find myself surprised still to this day every time I learn another thing about there are a lot of detailed hadith and being surprised still.
I was surprised with my book, and I wrote this book. I started writing about 2 years ago. Doing the research, I was shocked that the concept of sin under Islam is totally different from the Bible. Sin. Muhammad said, conceal your sin. In the Bible, you have to confess your sin.
Yeah.
Very big difference.
Yeah.
To hide your sin
Yeah.
under Islam and
Yeah.
to confess your sin
Yeah.
under the Bible, and you're forgiven.
Yeah.
In Islam, if you confess, I've done, let's say, I confess I'm an apostate. You get killed.
Yeah.
So confession of sin will get you killed under Islam.
Yeah. And they actually say that if you become an apostate and you hide it, you won't be killed. But if you were an apostate and you say it,
you have to conceal it.
Yeah, yeah.
So concealment of sin
Yeah.
is not only concealment of sin, but I have a whole chapter. It's called the sin factor in my book. Muhammad, because Muhammad committed murder, he stole property of the Jews and other tribes. Anybody who conquered him stole his property. So Muhammad really violated a lot of the 10 Commandments and killed all the poets. There were poets who made fun of him.
Yeah.
So
Jewish
he killed
poets,
them.
yeah.
So he cannot conceal his sin. Okay? So what does he do? There is a concept under Islam, immunity from sin.
Yeah.
To be immune from sin.
Yeah.
Muhammad gave himself, and Muslims gave Muhammad a concept called immunity from community, but the concept of isma in Islam. The Prophet is ma'soom from sin, means he is immune to sin.
Yeah.
Not only under Islamic law is the Prophet immune from sin, but all the Sahaba, all the leaders, and some people even go as far as saying the Sheikh in the mosque is ma'soom,
Yeah.
which means that he can do anything and you have to ignore it.
Yeah. And also the concept, it leads me to my next question, because the concept of Tariya is also kind of, Tariya is kind of the same, because you can do anything.
Ma'soom, concealment, lying, exaggeration, and slander are all allowed under Sharia.
Yeah.
And ma'soom. How can a prophet give himself more rights than his followers? You're supposed to be the example.
Yeah. Yeah. And my next question is actually about Tariya, and also the fact that you were saying that when you were a Muslim, you didn't know that you were lying. Or
No.
you didn't feel like lying
No.
whenever you were
At all.
talking about Islam.
No.
Can you?
Actually, it was an honor to lie for my religion.
Yeah. So you didn't feel bad. You didn't feel conflicted.
I feel bad if I say the truth.
Yeah, but
if I say the truth about jihad to America,
yeah,
what really jihad means,
yeah.
If I'm a real Muslim, I'd be very embarrassed if I say that.
But I get confused sometimes, because whenever I talk to Muslims, I get confused. Is it Tariya or is it? Or is it because a lot of Muslims don't know?
Most Muslims have no idea.
Yeah.
What their religion advocates.
Yeah.
And what are the priorities of their religion. The priority of Islam is expansion and controlling people through government.
Yeah.
That's the project of Sharia, enforcing Sharia.
Yeah.
And if a government enforces Sharia, it can be as tyrannical as it wants.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a law in the Sharia that says that you have to obey your leader as long as he's ruling by Sharia.
Yeah.
Even if he's unjust.
Yeah. And do you think a lot of Muslims, they don't know about their own religion because they're afraid to know more about their religion?
No, they are not allowed to know. Because if you're a Muslim, you're not supposed to question.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to doubt.
Yeah.
You get penalized. You get hurt. You get they shame you.
Yeah.
So.
But it's also easier not to know. You're doing your prayers. You're fasting in Ramadan.
You just take the nice little corner.
Yeah.
And you point at others are the bad guys, and I'm the good one, and I obey, and I'm good.
And it's kind of, I think, also in the West, I see the same thing with people not wanting to learn about, this mainstream version of Islam. Because, of course, we have Asra Nomani, we have other people, and they're not the first ones to come with this idea of reforming Islam. I think all through history, through Islam
has been trying. People have been trying to reform Islam since Muhammad died.
Yeah.
Since Muhammad died.
I believe that.
And they call them Khawarij, they call them apostates. These are the people who want to reform Islam.
Yeah.
So Islam have been trying to reform itself for 1400 years. And all it can do is go dormant for a while and then come back.
Yeah.
So resurface.
Yeah.
They go dormant when they're weak.
Yeah.
And then they resurface when they're strong.
Yeah. And my last question is a personal question about your own family. You said that a lot of people in your own family didn't want to talk to you, and this is also what happened in Egypt. The ones in Egypt. Do you think is that because they're afraid, or is a mix of being afraid and feeling you're a traitor, or?
To them, being a Muslim is almost like it's in your genes. Like if I leave Islam, it's almost like I left. It's unconceivable.
Yeah.
So, and these are people. Most of my family in Egypt, they don't pray. They don't even do any Islamic rituals. So being a Muslim to them is almost like belonging to a political party.
Yeah. But I think it's very very rare that you come from a family where your father was his
Shaheed.
Yeah, he was shaheed. He was his mission was to destroy Israel, to throw the Jews in the sea, and now you have in the U.S. You're the founder of
Arabs for Israel.
as Arabs for Israel.
Yeah.
That must have been a big journey for you
Yeah,
personally.
a big journey. Actually, when I was a kid, a child, I was an anti-Semite.
Yeah.
And if you tell me the word Jew, it means like monster.
Yeah.
And I grew up like that. When I came to America and I met a Jew for the first time, I was like scared. But I started learning the truth, and I discovered that every bad thing.
How was that personally in your own head? How did that feel?
Betrayal.
The clashes of
Betrayal by my own culture
Yeah.
of the truth.
Yeah.
I discovered that I belonged to a religion that had its number one enemy of Islam.
Yeah.
Is the truth.
Yeah.
You say the truth, and you become an enemy of Islam.
Yeah. One of the last question. One of the surprises I got was 2 years ago. I actually saw a YouTube video with David Horowitz, where he's at the university,
And the girl
with the hijabi girl, she asks him some questions, and then he asks her.
She admitted.
She admits that she wants all Jews to be killed. And then I found out that both Hamas, Muslim Brotherhood, and Hezbollah, people who are some kind of allies to the West, sometimes, in some
they
ways.
only allied because they want the approval of the left, of the leftists in the West, so they give them a foot in the government.
Yeah,
That's it.
But all of these people have said that they want to kill all Jews.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Did you know that?
There were demonstrations in San Francisco and in other parts of the United States, and I was there.
Yeah.
And I heard Muslims walking in these demonstrations, and they were chanting in Arabic, "Khaybar, Khaybar, ya Yahud, Jaysh Muhammad sawfa yaoud."
The same in Copenhagen.
And there was a Muslim girl who was saying, "Go back in the oven" to the Jews.
Yeah.
Here in America.
Yeah. The same in Denmark. Yeah.
So they are saying it to us.
Yeah.
They are not. We don't have to discover.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're telling us.
Yeah.
It all depends. Do we want to know or not?
Yeah. You said something else that I didn't know about Keith Ellison, and when he got elected for Congress, there were people in the audience chanting,
saying Allah Akbar.
Yeah. Is there a video documentation of that? Do you know that?
I read it.
You read it somewhere.
When he got elected,
Yeah.
It was written in his audience, chants of Allahu Akbar.
Yeah. And now he's the vice chairman of the Democratic Party. Yeah. How do you feel about that? What do you think about that? Is it even for liberals? I used to be a liberal. I used to be a leftist, like David Horowitz used to be.
I think a lot of people, when they're young and as they mature, they start seeing the world as it is, not as what it should be.
Yeah.
It's important to see the world as it is.
Yeah.
And it's important to see Islam as it is, not as what it should be.
Yeah.
A lot of Muslims, unfortunately, look at Islam as what it should be, not what it is.
Yeah.
And a realistic person is to see Islam as what it is.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.